Okay, we're live on Facebook, yay. Um, so yeah, let's get the party started. Should we introduce everyone?
Yeah, let's do it. Thank you all so much for joining. My name is Raul, the realtor. Today, I got Claudia, a real estate agent with us, and we also have some special guests. We have Dan Eskew and Amy from Preferred Home Inspections here to cover some of the items that we should be looking at while looking to purchase our dream house to make sure that we're not buying a nightmare instead, right? So, um, Claudia, go ahead and kick us off here. You can
Do
screen
you want
share
me,
that.
which screen are you looking at? Sorry.
How to avoid buying a problem home.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
see it.
perfect. I wasn't sure. And
Perfect.
and if you're here, it's probably because one of our amazing agents invited you. So thank you. This is some pictures of the agents in our brokerage. So thank you so much for joining us. Um, you can follow us. These are our handles for Instagram, Facebook, but mainly we love reviews. So if you learned something new today or loved our educational workshop, feel free to share it with the world by leaving us a Google review, a Yelp review. We'll also leave the link on the chat if that's easier for you, but you can always find us just by Googling Lepe Tendwell Properties.
Yeah, and if you're a rock star, go ahead and leave a review on both domains on there. That way, everybody can see kind of what Lepitan was doing over here. And all feedback is good feedback. So if you guys have any ideas on how we can serve you guys a little bit better in future workshops, we'd welcome that feedback as well. But thank you for that, Claudia.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, we're ready.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we got to understand what's happening in our real estate market. Things are changing so quickly, and there's a lot of myths going around, a lot of theories going around. So what I would say is make sure that you're getting your information from credible sources, right? So Claudia and I, we're doing a lot of real estate over here within the team that we work in. We have over 30 years of real estate experience. And so let's get into it over here. So in terms of the inventory, right now we're sitting at 2,056 homes. We're actually down 8% when we're talking about inventory. And why is that important? Because everything with price is with supply and demand, right? On the real estate market, we should have regular market this time of year. We should have anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 homes on the market. So the fact that we only have 2,000 is very, very scarce. Now, when we look at demand, it actually increased. We went from 1,800 escrows to almost 2,200 escrows. So as you can tell, demand, there's a lot more demand than there are homes to go around. And that's actually the biggest thing that is driving prices to stay kind of steady and maybe go up a little bit, right? Now, when you look at market time, from the moment that a seller puts a for sale sign on their front lawn to the moment that they have an accepted offer, it's taken about 35 days for that process to happen. Now, when a property is selling on average in less than 90 days, it is a seller's market. When the properties are selling on average in less than 60 days, it's a hot seller's market. We're doing about half that time. So we're in a hot seller's market right now. People are still trying to buy homes in sunny San Diego. Now, when we look at the foreclosure and the short sales, I do have a lot of folks saying that they're going to wait to see how many foreclosures hit the market and try to get a deal, right? Well, don't hold your breath. There are 12 total foreclosures and short sales happening in San Diego County, and we're talking a county with 3.3 million people, right? Now, compared to the Great Recession back in 08, 09, when prices were slashed in half, we had over 8,000 people in a foreclosure short sale situation. So the numbers are a little different there. Now, in terms of new builds, this is important because this is going to be one of the biggest things that is going to drive our inventory up. In terms of new builds, we are short about 125,000 housing units, right? And you can tell that year over year, we're building less and less. And last year, we actually had 4,000 new units built compared to 12,000 to 15,000 units that we actually need to be built on an annual basis to be able to catch up to this housing shortage here in San Diego. So long story short, there's not a lot of houses to go around, but there's a lot of people that want to buy these houses. So make sure that you get yourself a good, solid team to be able to make this dream of homeownership come true.
Thank you so much for the update, Raul. We'll get
My
started
pleasure.
and let me see. Okay, our guest. Let's
Yes.
introduce our special guest. He is our preferred home inspector, known him for now going on maybe 5 years.
No pun
So,
intended, right?
yeah. But tell us a little bit about yourself and Amy. Let's introduce also Amy, who's your right hand. She, sometimes we see her out in the field too. So,
Yeah, so I've been a home inspector since 2009. Before that, I was in construction. I am a CREA certified home inspector. And whenever you hire a home inspector, make sure they're CREA certified because there's no licensing in California for home inspectors. So one of the states that doesn't regulate home inspectors. So the best certification is CREA, and make sure any home inspector has that. I have a CREA certification. And we inspect at least in a hot market, we'll do 10 to 15 inspections a week. And when we are there on a home inspection, I am inspecting the house, and Amy here is typing on an iPad the report as I go around. So we get that report out right away. So Amy, you want to say hi?
Hi.
thank
Amy's been in the
you.
real estate field for over 10 years too. So she's
Yeah.
a TC and, part of this business. So she knows a ton.
Yeah, she's very detailed too, or detail oriented as well.
For sure. And for
Yes.
those who don't know what a TC is, it's a transaction coordinator. Whenever you're in a transaction of purchase or sell real estate, there's a lot of documents that are involved with this process. And a transaction coordinator's job is to mainly make sure that the documents are correct, filled out to their entirety, T's are crossed, I's are dotted, which is really crucial because Dan just got mentioning that she types up the reports for your home inspection. So it's nice that Amy has an extensive background with dealing with tons of paperwork because these reports can get pretty lengthy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Awesome. And that actually leads us to the next slide here.
Yes.
So whenever you're buying a house, who should you hire? Right off the bat, you have your lender, you have your real estate agent, right? But everybody has their own role. So Dan just got done talking about what kind of certification they should have, right? Because Dan, I think you mentioned it, maybe I could be wrong. I can just go and get a business card that says Raul Home Inspector and call it a day, right? I'm a home inspector. Is that how that
Yeah,
works?
pretty much. You don't need a license to do. You don't even need a certification to get out there and do work. And they're out there. So you got to buy the software, which is about $1,000. But man, you should have, to be a home inspector, you should have construction background and pass either the ASHI, CREA, or CREA certification. So
Great.
For sure.
I don't know why California doesn't regulate it, but we are one of those states.
Yeah, I don't know why either, but I'm happy that I have you because you are CREA certified and you
Thank
also
you.
have that construction background too, which comes very handy as well. When you have somebody looking at probably arguably the most expensive purchase that you're going to make in your life, whoever's looking at your house, you want to make sure that they're experienced, they know what they're looking at, and that they're going to be very honest and upfront with you.
Yeah.
And so, Claudia, if we can just go back to that slideshow, please.
Yeah.
We want to talk a little bit more about the other people that you should hire while purchasing a home. Dan, can you touch on the other two inspections and how involved you are and at what point you start to recommend other professionals to get involved?
So if we are at a property that's older than 1968, you're going to have a type of drain line, main drain line in the house that's made out of metal. It's made out of cast iron. And those rust, they corrode, they can crack, they can leak. So you want to know what your drains look like inside. So at that time, if we know you have old drains, we tell you, hey, you got to get a sewer scope, because if you have any drain issues, that's expensive because they're underground. You got to dig, you got to replace. So a sewer scope usually runs about $300 and it's well worth it. And then if we're going around the house and we notice just way too much rotting wood or termite damage, we'll recommend that you get a termite inspection report as well. So we only do the home inspection. We don't do the sewer scope or the termite, but we'll definitely recommend it if you need it.
Perfect. No, thank you for elaborating on that. And
Oh,
just to summarize what Dan just said. So the sewer scope, essentially, these cast iron lines, they usually have about a 50 to 60-year lifespan, right? So in all over San Diego, we're seeing all of these cast iron pipes that are actually, they're cracking, they're corroding, they're getting all clogged up. There's root intrusion, all types of things. And so the process for that, anywhere between $200 to $300, a plumber will go out there and with their very expensive camera, they'll shove a camera down your whole plumbing line. They'll record everything that's happening on there so that way you as a buyer can actually see what your plumbing actually looks like on the inside. Not only that, but this plumber is actually going to also type up a nice report. It's going to have the scope of work necessary, right? They're going to say, hey, you need to hydrojet it, maybe line it, maybe you got to replace it. And they're going to tell you, this is how much this is going to cost. And that's going to be one of the biggest differences as well from when Dan starts to call out these other professionals compared to Dan's report. Dan's going to say, hey, this looks like it needs some help. Go ahead and call said qualified professional, but he's not going to tell you how much it's going to cost. Dan's not going to sit there and do the work for you. He's just going to inspect it and let you know that it needs attention, right?
Yes.
And so when this plumber comes out here, he's the one who can actually, or that will actually do the work. And so they're going to actually quote you on that work as well. And they'll give you a really detailed report as to the steps that they're going to take to remediate that problem there.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the average on all these inspections? How much is out of pocket for a buyer?
Oh, how much does a home inspection cost for a?
Yeah, like an
So-
average for just,
So if your house is around 2,000 square feet, say 1,500 to 2,000, we're charging $595. And, that entails us inspecting every component around the exterior, the garage, all the plumbing, all the electrical, all the structure. And then from the exterior and the garage, we go into the house and we check everything, especially if the house is vacant. We'll check every single outlet, every single drain line. Sometimes it's difficult when houses have a lot of furniture in it, but I know exactly where to go. If I have to move furniture, I will. So at that point, we're checking windows, we're checking the plumbing, and then we go in the attic, and at the very end, we'll fly a drone over your roof to inspect the concrete roof tiles. So that's all included in the price, and also a infrared camera we have, and we scan the whole building to make sure there's no leaks. We just found one on an inspection today. A shower pan was leaking and we found it on the infrared camera. So all that's included, infrared and drone service. A lot of other home inspectors, they charge extra for that, but we include it. So
Yeah.
$595 for a detached house. And
that's,
then the price lowers a bit for condos and townhouses. And then, we do a lot of large estates. So the most expensive we usually can get is about $2,000, $2,500 for a huge, 5,000 square foot house with a pool. And our pool inspections run about $250. And we spend about 6 hours on every inspection. So we'll be at the property for about 3 hours. And then our computer work at the office, it varies from 2 to 3 hours. So, $600 for $1 million house. So we think that's definitely worth it.
yeah, that was gonna be my
Absolutely.
next point. Like, it's a peace of mind you're buying and you get an overall view of what you're investing
Yes.
into, which you
Definitely.
covered more of these major components of why hire a home inspector, which it's the foundation, the roof, plumbing and electrical, HV.
Yeah, so those are definitely the main points that we go to. So if there's foundation issues, you guys are spending a lot of money to fix that stuff. I mean, that's the main part of the house. If you have a bad foundation, you have a bad house. I mean, I've told many buyers they should walk away when they have a cracked foundation. The roof, if it leaks, you're in a nightmare. So, and roofs can range from 15,000 to 50,000. So they're expensive. And then old plumbing, some old plumbing can cause, health problems. If you drink it, there's rust rolling through the old water lines. Electrical can start fires. So you better hire an inspector that knows electrical. So electrical definitely on one of my top priorities when I go to a house. And then the HVAC system, if you don't have a working heater and it's wintertime, you're freezing, oh no. And then an air conditioner. Air conditioners always have problems. So we make sure we definitely check the HVAC system. And we have infrared cameras that will prove that it was working. And, I don't want to gross too many people out, but the HVAC system in the attic, when rodents make their way in an attic, they crawl inside the air ducts. So we are definitely making sure you don't have that issue going on. So all those are the main things.
For sure. No, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I remember selling a house in Ramona and you did our inspection out there. And that's exactly what had happened. The rodents got in the air ducts and they were running their AC. And as soon as we walked into the house, all you smelled was rodent
Yeah.
feces.
Yeah.
And, luckily you
We see a lot.
Yeah, no, luckily you inspected it thorough enough to where we were able to have a successful negotiation with the seller and remediate that problem
That's great.
without the buyer's expense, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, thank you for touching on that.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get into some examples, right? So
Sure.
this is actually a deal that I did back in, can't remember when, but Dan did the inspection for me. Now, to the naked eye, we're looking at this roof. Depending on who you ask, some might say looks good to me, and some might say, oh, it looks a little older. You might need to fix a few things, and some might tell you need a full replacement, right? Now, this is kind of what a home inspection report will look like. And in red, you can see the remarks and the recommendations saying that the roof is old. The life of the roof has essentially expired, that you could probably fix a little bit, but recommend consulting a licensed roofing contractor out here. So Dan's job is not necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, it's not necessarily to diagnose every problem and tell you how to fix it. His job is just to identify that, hey, these parts don't look right. This is going to need some attention. The roof, it has reached the end of its life. Now we need to get an actual roofer out here to tell you exactly what you need to do to get this roof up to par.
Yeah. So as an inspector, you got to know when you see something, and if it doesn't look right or it's aged, you got to put on the report which contractor should come out. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to make a mistake and say, this is aged, and then the realtor goes to the extent of hiring the roofer, getting him out there, and then the roofer all of a sudden says, this is fine. Or an electrician, if you don't know exactly what you're talking about, you hire an electrician to go out there and they look at the issue and they're like, this is fine. So hiring a CREA certified inspector that definitely should have some background in construction. That's what you want, or else you're going to be wasting a lot of people's money and time.
It's funny that you say that, that hardly crossed my mind just because I've never had that experience with you.
That's good.
Yeah. So when we went out and we actually brought this roofer, we came back with a $14,250 bid. So as a buyer, you're probably thinking, you're like, man, what now? What now? I saved up all this money for my down payment, thousands of dollars for my closing costs. I'm spending money along the escrow process to get my house inspected. Where am I going to get $14,000 from? So what I want to do is I want to show you guys actually the bid that we ended up getting for this exact roof over here. That way you guys have a good idea as to what the differences would be like, right? Now, let me see here. So this is the bid that we ended up getting. And as you can tell, it's very detailed, right? It's got how much everything's going to cost, what they're going to inspect, exactly what they're going to fix, things of that nature, the warranties that they offer, things of that nature, right? So that right there is what your realtor is going to need to be able to negotiate, to be able to have the seller fix whatever it is that you guys want to fix. If you're not sending your realtor equipped with the proper reports, your realtor's going into a gunfight with no bullets. So The results on this one, the buyers ended up getting a new roof. It depends on the
Awesome.
market that you're in. Every situation is different. Every deal is different. Some sellers are going to be more willing than others. In this particular instance, our real estate team was able to negotiate to have the seller pay for this roof. So guess how much the sellers paid for it? I gave you guys the answer already. They paid absolutely nothing for it. And again, that came from this buyer doing their due diligence, hiring the home inspector, getting the roofer out there, doing what they needed to do to really identify what the problem was. So that way we can effectively relay this information to the sellers and put ourselves in the best position possible to be able to get that problem fixed without the buyer spending much money. So example number 2, Claudia loves example number 2, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about this one.
Yeah, sample number 2. So this is what the report would look like if there is cast iron, and Dan will go into detail of well, he kind of went over in the beginning of the workshop of, you know, the importance of good drainage. And we have the video, or do you want to exit that? So
Yeah, sure thing. But that's kind of what the notes would look like on your home inspection report when your home inspector goes out there and notices that you do have cast iron drains. That's already a red flag, and they're going to want to inspect those. Claudia, do you have the video handy, or would you like for me to pull it up?
can
Perfect.
you know? Yeah.
Do you have an estimate on how much to change the cast iron drains?
Camera inspection.
I do.
Yeah, so
Zooming
this is
from the roof. Looks like we're
what
looking
I
at
like
city
about
mainland.
these inspections is that they'll talk over the video. So you know, it
Pull back
it
camera,
helps.
There's lots of root intrusion at this connection.
And they run water down the drain.
Top.
They want to
Yeah.
see a constant flow. So that's water.
PVC pipe
Yeah,
on the bottom. And this looks like clay pipe. It's broken and has roots
oh yeah.
with multiple bends. More roots. I'm gonna pause the video right here and locate this section of pipe.
Perfect. Thank you for showing that, Claudia. So just so you guys know or have an idea of what your sewer scope would look like, you're literally going to see exactly what's inside of your drains and what it looks
Yeah.
like. So that way, this is, again, more firepower for your agent to be able to negotiate in your best interest. You know, you just send this video to the seller and it speaks for itself, literally.
You know,
Yeah.
one quick thing too. I considered buying a camera myself, and I did some more, you know, sewer camera, and I did some research. One of my friends that's an inspector bought a camera, he got it stuck, and then he had to pay to get it out. So leave it to the plumbers. If a home inspector comes up to you and says, I can do it, you know, a great camera costs $8,000. I'm not spending $8,000 right now on a camera. And yeah, so leave it to a professional to put that down. So a plumber should be doing that.
And this is kind of what your bid will look like. You know, you're going to get this this bid from your sewer scope plumber here, and work description. They're going to highlight all the work that needs to get done. They're going to talk about the warranty, how much it costs. And again, these are the things that you need to have to make sure that you're best prepared for your transaction as well.
And that's actually a good price. I've seen it up to $30,000. So
Oh yeah, that one. So I've actually seen a couple of different ways to get that done. So depending on how bad it is, I've
Yeah.
seen some people get away with just lining the inside. So what they'll do, the plumbers will do, is they'll hydrojet the inside, so they'll clean all the debris that's inside, and then they'll line it on the inside with some material that's strong enough to give it an extra 50 or 60 years worth of life. So that way you don't have to worry about these issues, hopefully for another 50 or 60 years.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point on this example. It's like, I mean, it sounds bad to see that video and everything, but once you assess the property you're buying, you can determine if it's a deal breaker or not, depending on how bad the repairs are. I know when I bought our house, it did have, I can't remember exactly what, but we did add a lining, like Raul was mentioning. That was our type of repair that we did to it. And everything, I've been there for going on 2 years, and nothing has came up. So sometimes it's always just good to have it, we at least know, hey, we do have some cast iron, like from here on, it's gonna give out in maybe 5-10 years. So it's not, well, to us, it wasn't a deal breaker, but it's good to know what you have or what you're buying into.
Totally. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So go back to the slideshow here. And Claudia's going to tell us a little bit more about the sewer scope. A lot of this I
Yeah.
think we already covered, right?
Yeah, I think we covered that, and we talked about the amount of money that goes into it, and it's one of our go-tos. I know here at Lepe Tendwell Properties, we recommend, even if our clients are buying a house they already live in, we always advise them to get a home inspection, a general home inspection, a termite, and sewer. Those are like the must-haves.
Totally. So the
Oh, yeah.
next thing to cover is the home warranty versus the home insurance, and how your home inspection report actually plays a big part in this. So Claudia, tell us a little bit about the differences and how a home inspection report can save a buyer.
Yeah, so once you know what your property has, and you're probably thinking, especially in a competitive market when the seller is, saying like, I'm not going to do any repairs, there's 20 offers, who's going to buy it as is. These are the items that kind of give a new homeowner that peace of mind. A home warranty is negotiated with your offer, and it's to cover 1 year coverage, and it covers anything inside the home as such as appliances. Sometimes it does plumbing. It all depends which packet or coverage you get. We always give our clients the brochure to see if they want to include anything else as far as like solar, or they can include pool. There's a whole list of things that you can include, and the service fee is $75 for them to go and inspect it, and they could either determine if they can cover it or not. So that's a nice way to cover yourself the first year of you going into this new home that you sometimes don't know what's going to come up. And then the home insurance is typically paid in your monthly mortgage payment. So in that one, it's to cover for weather or natural disasters. So that can be from fire, smoke, theft, fallen trees, any natural disaster.
Can I add something on the home warranty?
Please do.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'll let Amy do it because we take pictures. Tell them what we do with the infrared camera.
Yeah, we take pictures with the infrared camera showing the heater working, showing the air conditioner working, showing the water heater working with the hot water at the sink. And so those pictures all go on our report. And then if something does go out during that period of home warranty, then the buyer, the homeowner, can show that report to the home warranty company. And it proves that it was working at the time of inspection, and it gives them a much greater chance of being covered.
Yeah, we've actually had realtors come up to us and say, hey, my buyer's got a brand new water heater because you took a ton of pictures, you proved it was working at the time it was inspected, and you proved that everything that was supposed to be on there code-wide was done. And then bam, the home warranty company went in there and took care of it. So we know what they're looking for. We've been in business that long, so we know what they're looking for. So we take those specific pictures to help you guys out.
For sure. Thank you for mentioning that, because that
Yeah.
actually happened to one of my clients. His AC system was working. That guy in Ramona, next thing you know, 3 months later, his AC goes out, and it was due to your very detailed report that he was able to get his AC fixed. They didn't cover all of it because it was already kind of going out on the way out, but they covered $8,000 out of the $12,000 bill. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty solid right there. And it was
Yeah.
all because the guy paid $600 for a home inspection report. If he didn't pay for that home inspection report, I can only imagine the nightmare that this homeowner would have gone through just trying to prove that they actually did have a functioning system and it went out on them, right? So
Yeah,
all the proof you can get is the better.
great.
So one thing to note, I think Claudia already mentioned it. So your home insurance, that's going to be through your monthly payment with your mortgage, but the home warranty, that's just a one-time payment. So it's a one-time payment. It covers you for 1 year. And typically that's negotiated. Common practice in California, or at least in San Diego, is that the sellers actually pay for that. So usually the buyer doesn't have to pay for it. But again, it depends on the market. If you're dealing in a very competitive market as a buyer, then you may have to pay for it yourself. But the cool thing is too, that it's not just for 1 year. So you pay for it for the first year, but if you wanted to extend it, there are some options to extend it year over year as well. So they do offer various different plans as well. But I know that we've been talking a lot. I want to open it up to some questions and answers. So who's got some questions for us? And you guys don't have to be shy, I promise. No question's a bad question. But in the meantime, while people are unmuting and throwing in some questions on the chat, Dan, can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about some of the common things that you see in a home inspection? Like, I guess some of the little things, we talked about the big main components that can get very expensive. What about some of the little things that typically get overlooked because it's quote unquote little, right? So
Yeah, so when we go into attics, I make sure I go in the attic. Amy will stand down there and I'll yell out what I see and she'll type it up. So when I'm in an attic, I could, a ceiling fans are probably installed by homeowners. So I'll look around and I'll find one little wire sticking up through the insulation that isn't put in a box, even though that looks little. Any loose wires in the attic, super dangerous. Old outlets. I have a tester that tells me if an outlet is aged. And even though an outlet will look brand new, there's some pretty cheap ones out there that my tester right away will let me know if they're done. So we just ran into that on an inspection today. So that's a big thing. Just think about what an electrician will charge to replace every outlet in a house. So, another little thing. So the valves under a sink, they'll look like they're working fine, but those things are ticking time bombs. And I can tell right away if they're older than 20 years. I can just tell by the style. And right away, we're putting that on the report. So, and you know what a lot of people don't realize? The ground outside the house, the
What is that?
level of the dirt. If it's sloped back towards the house, you could have major foundation issues. So that's probably one of the smallest things that goes unnoticed is the slope of the dirt outside, the ground outside. It's got to be sloping away from the house. Rain gutters too. Rain gutters are, nobody really notices the gutters if there's something wrong. But yeah, we make sure we look at those things because a bad rain gutter can destroy a house, do
It's
more
funny.
damage. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because, just going through families that help throughout the year, I get to know more and more about the functionality of the home. And I'm a late bloomer because I moved out of my parents pretty late. I didn't even, one time we had a water leak under the sink and I had to drive all the way to church to get my dad because I didn't know where the water shut off was at. And he's like, how do you not know? You're 20 something, and I was like, I don't know. So it was, so now I love when we're walking the properties and you're like, this is your water shut off, So it's like, yes, know that because I had to drive all the way to church to get my dad to come turn it off.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, which is funny you mentioned that because not only do they show you like, hey, this is where it's
Yeah.
at, but it's also on the report too. It'll say, hey, this is a photo of your water shut off. They'll put an arrow to the little handle where you can shut it off, and
Yeah.
it'll just say, hey, this is information purposes only. This is just so you know where it's at.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you have to do
And
that, but
yeah,
it's appreciated.
yeah, it is.
Thank
And
you.
like that. And so getting to know what, like gutters, rain gutters, like you would think like, what, like aesthetically, it's not like the cutest thing. Like, it's like, oh, what is that? Or to me, at least before real estate, I thought rain gutters, who cares?
Yeah.
But now um, it makes sense. Like you want to protect the house from water. Water damage can really do a lot of damage. So you don't realize it, or I didn't realize it until now I'm,
Right.
100
No,
something deals in.
well,
So it's
glad to hear that you're not going to destroy your house to make sure it's not cute, with those
yeah,
gutters.
exactly.
But
So now, and even the fascias and like, when you see the I don't know what they're called, but the extended roof, it's like that
Oh,
makes sense,
yeah.
It's just like it just anything to bring water away from the house, from the foundation. So it's almost like a car, like you want the oil to keep your engine running smooth and all these things that bring it all in running. It's the houses need that same equipment or parts to it to hold it longer, protect it. So rain gutters, I'm looking at.
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely. So in short, really what we're
Yeah.
saying is when you're walking around the house that you're looking to buy, look
Yeah.
around the perimeter of your wall where the wall meets ground and ask yourself, if it was to rain today, would water be sitting right there on my wall, or is it going to be flowing away from my house because the ground
Yes.
is tilted the right way?
Yes.
So a couple of questions here. So average amount for the termite inspection. I've seen them be anywhere between $75 to $100 for the inspection. I've also seen some guys do it for free. Now, in my experience, you get what you pay for. So, the from what I've seen, if you start trying to get the free ones or the super cheap ones, you're probably going to get a report that has a really high number to get this termite work fixed. But make sure that whoever you're using is a qualified professional. I think that's going to be the most important thing. What about you guys? What have you guys seen in terms of the average amount for a termite inspection?
I see $75 to $100 too.
Okay, cool.
Sometimes they'll give it to you for free if they know that you're gonna be requesting those section 1 repairs, and then they'll say, oh, as long as you use us for your repairs, we'll go ahead and do the initial inspection for free. But I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go.
Yeah, no, and usually the way these guys operate is say you pay that $100 for your inspection report. If you do the work with them, they'll apply that $100 towards the balance of the
There
work
you go.
actually getting done. So it's not money down the drain. And San Diego is actually notorious for termites. So even as a homeowner, Dan, I think what is it? I know we're not termite inspectors here, but I think it's every 2 years it's recommended to do a termite inspection on your home.
Absolutely. Because if you let it go too long, you are paying a hefty price to get that wood fixed, especially if they're under your house. And your guy, John Bellinger, that you recommend, he is awesome. A lot of termite guys, I'm sorry, they could be a little lazy. They might not crawl everywhere. John, though, he goes everywhere that I go. So he's quality.
Yeah, 100%. All the guys that I hire I make sure that they get down and dirty. So
Yeah.
Dan, I appreciate you coming out them crawl spaces.
Oh,
yeah.
you're welcome.
So, hello. Are home inspections needed for new builds? Dan, I'd love for you to touch on that one.
Okay, so we don't find much on new inspections, but I have found some things, not too large, but what we offer is, I don't know if people know this, but when you buy a brand new house, a licensed contractor in California only has to guarantee their work for 12 months. So we'll inspect your brand new house, and then we'll remind you to call us at the 11th month of that house. We'll go out, inspect it again for a discount price. So you can hand your builder a list of what needs to be done before the 12 months is up. So that's the offer that we give. And yeah, we find little stuff on houses that are brand new.
Yeah, and it's a really good idea to do exactly what Dan just said. I experienced a new build that was done, and the buyer moves in, and next thing you know, within 30 days of moving in, they're having plumbing issues. So it turns out that whoever was setting up the shower didn't properly connect the drain pipes. So when they were showering, all the water was literally going all throughout the ceiling. This is on second floor. It was going all through the ceiling, all through the drywall, and it was just causing a big mess. So builders, they're human too, so they can make mistakes, and Dan's here to catch those mistakes. Now, he's not going to break down the drywall to make sure they connected the drain lines correctly, but he'll look for the red flags that indicate that they didn't do something correctly, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, and also just like the general inspection, but I like Dan doing or having, I don't know if every inspector does this, but for the new homes that we've sold and Dan's come out, I like that he explains where everything's at. Again, like the water shut off, like how the tankless water heater works. So it's like not just the general condition of the home, but also getting that person that sees this and can tell you how it works, what's normal, what's not, windows. He explains from like how the window runs, the wheels, the pop it off, pop it on. Like, this is genius,
Yeah.
I actually renewed my license, and the home inspection part, I like winged it with green everything, and I sent him a picture of it because I'm like, I know of this because of you. Like, so
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. No, and back to like those tankless water heaters, a lot of the times, we don't even know how to maintenance those. So I think you got to flush those. What is it, one or every 2 years?
Every 6
every year?
months.
Every
If
6
you
months. There we go.
don't have a water filtration system, every year if you do have a water filtration system.
There you go.
who
And
does that then?
You can buy a kit, and it's real easy to do it yourself. A lot of people do it themselves. So because the valves on the tankless water heater are easy to open up and close for a homeowner. So, but a plumber can do it, but
Yeah, I have a tankless. I haven't serviced it, so I think it's time.
And that's what I was going to say. Most people don't know that they need to service it. And if they do
Yeah.
know that they need to service it, they usually put it on the back burner. So make sure you call
Yeah.
your plumber or grab your dad from church so they can service your water heater for you.
Yeah.
So another question here. So are there specific things that a buyer should be looking out for while they're touring a house, trying to figure out, should I buy this or not? Let's see, shopping to immediately cross a property off the list. I was previously told to look for large cracks in the ceiling. Anything else? What red flags should buyers be looking for while touring
Okay,
these
so
houses?
there can be cracks in older homes because the walls are made out of plaster. So a straight crack in the ceiling is not really something bad. But if you have like a stair stepping crack anywhere, ceiling or wall, that's bad. So straight cracks, not a big deal, but stair stepping cracks, big deal. So yeah, cracks are definitely something to look out for.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I just threw this on Google so people can see kind of what a
There you go.
stair stepping crack is. So
Yep.
literally like stairs.
Yep.
So aside from those cracks, what else do you advise a buyer to look at? Usually when I go into a house, I'm also looking at the windows, see if there's any fogginess. I'm looking under the sinks, angle stops, things of that nature. But what do you recommend to the buyers?
Definitely the same thing you just said. Damage on the floors, that's something you want to make sure. The cabinets, make sure they're not too damaged. Someone that takes care of their house takes care of their house throughout. I mean, I could tell when we're going to find a lot on a house as soon as I open the front door. So that's it. You want to see if they're taking care of deferred maintenance. One quick thing. What was that? And I did some more, sewer camera, and I did some research. One of my friends what was that?
Claudia, I think that's
And I did
potentially your Facebook Live. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry about that.
Okay, so yeah, deferred maintenance. You want to make sure someone's keeping up with deferred maintenance. But if you're getting a good price on the house and you're handy, sometimes that helps you with your negotiations. But definitely, you want to look for older windows. You want to look for an old water heater. You want to look for an old HVAC system. If it's an old HVAC system, it's going to cost a lot. So that's probably the biggest thing that's easy for homeowners. Check out the age of the HVAC system. And then the stair stepping cracks, And then if you're in a house that, you know, you can open the cabinets up and look under the sinks, yeah, make sure there's no moisture in there. So,
For sure, for sure. And then the angle stops that I mentioned, correct me if I explained this incorrectly, Dan, but it's the knob that, or it's pretty much the knob that's in the wall underneath your sink that eventually corrode, and that's what leaks and floods your house when you go on vacation. Yeah,
yep,
there we
yep.
go. And they're not that hard or expensive to replace, right, Dan?
Yeah, they're not that expensive to replace. I would definitely recommend a licensed plumber for that, because if you put it on wrong, they're going to pop right off, because they're not on by threads. They're on by compression. So
Compression.
they can pop off very easily.
Got it, got it.
So,
And then you
definitely.
mentioned to check the wood underneath the sink as well, right?
Yeah.
That's gonna give you an idea if there's been prior leaks or.
Yep. And as soon as you walk into a house, if it smells musty, there could be a leak somewhere.
Okay.
So,
Good
yes.
stuff. Good stuff. These are a lot of really good questions. What other questions do y'all folks have out there? Now that we have Dan here to answer your questions for free, you're not paying him $5.95 right now. Awesome. Well, while you guys think of your questions, I just wanted to remind you guys again, Claudia, if you can put up the links so these nice people can leave us a review. Again, all feedback is good feedback. So if you have anything for any tips for us to be able to bring more value to you guys next time, or if you just really enjoyed today's class and you really liked what you learned today, we'd also love to hear that from you as well. So Yelp, Google, if you're a rock star, do both. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. So we have another question. Dan, what is a tell sign for termites and roof issues?
Okay, so termites in wood. When termites are in the wood, you can't see them. But if they start burrowing out, they'll make little tiny holes like the size of a pea, like a green pea. And if you see holes like that in the wood, that tells you that they've already chewed most of it inside and now they're making their way out. And then termites, there's termite droppings. There's little tiny brown pellets that they leave behind. And that's a telltale sign you have termites. So roofing. So I could tell how about this? If you're buying a house that has a concrete tiled roof and it's over 25 years old, you more than likely need your paper replaced under the tiles. So just remember that. If you're looking at a house that's older than 25 years old and it has concrete tiles, you likely need the paper replaced. There you go. Yep, good job, Raul. You're quick. Cracked tiles. If you can see cracked tiles from the street, that's not good either, but that's hard to see from the street. And then, I don't know if you're fast with this, Raul. So asphalt shingle tiles that have like a shiny look to them, that means all the granules have come off and the fiberglass is showing, and that roof is likely going to need replaced soon. So from a distance, you could see like a sheen across a asphalt shingled,
Something like this.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see if you're not a professional, but you'll definitely be able to see the shininess of asphalt shingle roof. And that means, there you go. So.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much I just see a bunch of discoloration, and correct
When
me if
they're
I'm wrong,
curling
Dan.
when they're curling like that too, that means those tiles, what actually that means is that there's poor venting. It's not being vented well enough. So, and that could be a major issue as well.
So the original color here should be the darker one, not necessarily the light gray. Is that right?
Well, that's the color has like a modeling look to give it a nicer effect. It's more of the curling of the edges on that roof.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And I've actually seen a lot of roofs that don't have a lot of venting nearby, and it's pretty much like an oven in the attic, right? It literally just bakes your
Yes.
roof. And
Yes.
like, what would you say? It takes away maybe like 5 years, maybe 10 years away from the life of your roof?
Exactly. And if you don't have enough vents in your roof per code, the roofing company won't guarantee you or the manufacturing of the shingles won't get your warranty won't pass. So you got to have the right amount of vents.
There you go. Make sure your house has vents. And then
Yep.
with these vents too, one thing is there's vents. They're going to be like rectangular vents throughout like the underneath of your roof or on the wall, whatever it may be.
Yep.
They're supposed to have a screen on there.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a screen on there, rodents can get in, or you can get a beehive to go in there. And remember, you got to save the
Yes.
bees. You can't just go in and rip off the bees.
Yes.
So that's something that's really, really common that I've seen. Is it pretty common on your inspections, Dan?
Yeah, I've climbed in an attic once and there was a little hawk inside the attic and it was not happy. So huge nest. Yeah, squirrels can get in that way. So those screens are so important and they only last about 25, 30 years. They rust and then they crack and then you have holes.
Yeah.
That's like another little thing, like
Mhm.
who knew those nets were so important? Like
Yeah,
now every time I'm like, they need a new.
yeah. We were just at a home inspection today and we watched a bee fly right inside one that had a hole. So then I had to go back in the attic, make sure there was no beehive in there. Thank God there wasn't one. So,
boy.
but yeah, that's how, but I've seen many beehives. So, and that's how they're getting in.
Yeah, just a few examples of how something so small and I think it's pretty inexpensive for a screen can cause really big issues. And
And not only that, if you don't use the right size screen, then they're coming in still too. You don't want to use too big and you don't want to use too small.
oh yeah, that's a good sign of deferred
Yeah.
maintenance right there, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Yep.
All
Great
right.
stuff.
Yeah. Any last final questions that we do have while you guys unmute yourself or type in your questions? I do also want to encourage you that if you're not already currently getting our real estate newsletter, we send this out on a monthly basis via email. So this is so you can stay in the know as to what's happening in this real estate world. So if you want to be part of our real estate newsletter and you want to get this on a monthly basis, go ahead and send us your email. You can just direct message Claudia or myself, and we'll get you on the email list. So that way, only once a month, we're not going to spam you. Once a month, you'll get an email with our newsletter as well.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, Dan, Amy, thank you guys for taking time out of your evening to spend time with all of us and educate us a little bit about what are some do's and don'ts of home inspections.
You're
Not only
welcome.
that, but why it's important to even do a home inspection, especially on
Yeah.
a new build when everything's supposed to be working.
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't see any more questions coming in. I appreciate everybody spending their night with us today. Thank you for joining. And I hope to see you guys all at the next workshop.
All righty, guys.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having us.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the dirty.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
Oh, thanks for the info. Thank you,
All
Alberto.
right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye. See you
Bye-bye.
at inspection.
Okay.
If I end the meeting, will it cancel? It'll still save everything, right?